What's going on, people? Welcome back to the channel. In this fundamentals video, we're going to be covering the Kimura submission from closed guard bottom. Let's get into it. All right, so now we're talking about the Kimura from closed guard bottom, all right? One of the important parts of the Kimura and the setup to keep in mind is if I get his hands on the mat, then I can attack a Kimura. And however you do that, it doesn't really matter. But if his hand touches the mat, I can start sitting up and attacking his shoulder. The way we're gonna work on it from today is Byron's gonna have both of his hands on my chest here. This happens pretty frequently. Could be into my armpits, could be one hand on the chest, one hand on the hip. Doesn't really matter, but two hands on my torso somewhere. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go wrist to wrist. I wanna get both of my wrists underneath his wrists. I'm gonna crunch, pulling in with my legs, and then from here, I'm gonna pop backwards and break those grips, right? Ideally, a lot of times we're gonna keep contact here. His forearms, he's not gonna wanna fly his arms up, but he's gonna try and keep gripping. So a lot of times our forearms stay connected, and from here, he's not just gonna dive into me. So I have to pull his hands down to the mat and guide them with my forearms. Right now, it's important that Byron doesn't go chest to chest. If he goes chest to chest, this changes my attack series, but most of the time, people want to be posturing back up, getting their hands off the mat. So I'm keeping pressure with my legs, and my arms are T-Rex arms. I can pick either side here because both of his hands are on the mat. So I'm gonna crunch to the opposite side of the arm I want to attack, and from here, my goal is to get on my elbow, right? I'm not just gonna grab his arm and try and pull it down because he's got a lot of weight on this hand. There's too much weight for me to just move it. So, T-Rex arms. Lean the opposite way. Now, using my elbow that's close to my body, look how I lean up and I'm posted on my elbow, okay? My armpit should cover his shoulder. This arm is gonna overhook his arm and I'm just holding tight. I'm gonna use my body weight as I lean back to get his hand off the mat. Now that his hand is floating, even if it's straight, right, I'm gonna use this like as a knife hand. I'm gonna try and bend his arm to that 90-degree angle. This overhook hand is gonna be flaring to try and bend his elbow even more. And now I should be able to slide my hand down and connect my figure four. I don't want to lock with both of my hands. I feel a lot weaker when I use my thumbs here. I prefer monkey paw on both of my wrists, his wrist and my wrist, to maintain control. Okay, from here, to get the finish, I'm not just going to start pushing, though sometimes I can get the tap like that. It's going to be a lot of strength for strength. And in this situation, because our hips are square with each other, Byron has the ability to lift me up. I don't want that to happen. So, from here, before I try to finish and rip his arm off, I'm gonna straighten my opposite leg. You guys see my left leg straightens, and now I'm going to turn my knees to bring my hips out. Okay, my hips come out to the side, and now I can start cutting that angle, and my whole goal is to stay heavy on his shoulder here. My left elbow drives down into his shoulder, and keeping the wrist grip here, if I need to, I can use my knee to make some extra strength there to bend his arm, but a lot of times, all I have to do is rotate my entire torso, keeping everything tight on his shoulder, rotate my body, and I get the tap. Byron's got tight shoulders, so that's really pronounced. I don't get to emphasize that very much, but elbow stays low, rotate my torso, getting the tap on the shoulder lock. So a common problem that people have is they forget where to put their pressure, or where to stay heavy, right? When I attack the Kimura, I want to think about dragging his shoulder to the mat the entire time once I've started to set the position up. Okay, so we've gotten our T-Rex arms here. I'm going to crunch to the side, and I come up over his shoulder. Okay, armpit over the shoulder. This is where my initial weight starts to happen. I'm dragging his shoulder to the mat. Now, when I fall, I use my body weight to pull his shoulder even further towards the mat, keeping connected with my chest. You see how his hand comes off the mat, right? That's because now, instead of posting his hand on the mat, he's posting his shoulder on my chest, getting it closer and tighter and closer, just heavier towards the ground. So, focusing my pressure on the shoulder here, I should be able to connect my hands. If I haven't, right, if he's straightening his arm right here, then I'm using my wrist as a blade, chopping it, getting it bent, and now I can connect. Okay, so first problem is staying loose on the shoulder, not being heavy enough. Second problem is not shrimping out. I mentioned this a little bit in the first part of the instructions, but if I just try to finish here, a lot of times Byron can actually lift me up. He just postures, and now my ability to put pressure on his shoulder diminishes. So if my goal is to stay heavy on his shoulder and keep dragging his shoulder towards the mat, by changing the angle of my hips, look, straighten my leg, my hips cut out, right? When I change this angle, I'm able to pull my elbow even lower, dragging his shoulder even closer to the mat. Goal, to stay heavy, keep his shoulder dragged down. Now that my hips are out, sometimes I can even finish with my leg high like this. Again, the purpose of that being, keep his back close to the mat, keep his chest close to the mat, stay really heavy, and not let him lift me up, right? So we're here, I've shrimped out. This is gonna give me the ability to rotate fully for the submission, versus if I'm staying underneath him like this, now I can't rotate my chest to finish. All I'm doing is pushing with my arms, and that's not good enough to get the finish, right? Shrimp, stay heavy on the shoulder, use my whole torso to rotate and get the finish. So now I've gone to this position, but I can't figure four my hands because Byron is straightening his arm really hard. I can't just force it, especially if they're stronger than me. I'm trying, it's not working. So to address this problem, right, I'm gonna shrimp out just like normal. Shrimp out, and I'm gonna feed his hand towards my leg. Go ahead and keep straightening your arm, right? He's straightening. All I need to do is get my knee on the outside of his wrist, and now I close my knee, and I'm able to bend his arm. Now I can go back to my regular finish, rotating with my chest. So I got up to my Kimura here. Normally, in order to finish and to get close to submitting him, I need to drag his shoulder towards the mat and lift his hand off the mat, get his hand light. Unfortunately, in this situation, maybe he preemptively recognized what I was doing, or maybe he's just really strong and he starts posturing up and essentially lifts me off the mat, okay? I come up on my elbow and my hand, just like we did in the hip bump sweep, because if we stay here, go back down with your hand on the mat. If we stay here and he's posturing, I'm not gonna be strong enough. Go ahead and posture a little bit. I'm not gonna be strong enough to pull him back and get his hand off the mat. I can't isolate his arm. So he postures, I feel that, elbow, hand, I'm coming up. And now you guys see I have an overhook, right? I'm gonna switch that, grab his forearm, hug it to my lat here. And now I do the hip bump sweep just like normal, flattening my foot, turning, and taking the path of least resistance because he resisted my initial submission, giving me an easy hip bump sweep. That's the Kimura from closed guard bottom. If you found this video useful in any way, make sure you hit the like button, it helps the channel. And if you want to see more videos like this in the future, consider subscribing. As always, stay consistent, go train.